Thomas Müller, 36 years old, veteran of 756 Bayern Munich appearances, 2 Champions League titles, 1 World Cup, forgot his boots. Not his passport, not his visa, his boots, at an MLS All-Star training session in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then, while wearing what appeared to be someone else's pair, a pair with a small South Korean flag stitched onto them, he had the audacity to go out and train anyway. He denied it, by the way. "I had my own boots," Müller told reporters. "They just arrived late. I had forgotten them in the mealroom, and the MLS team made it happen to bring them in, so it was my boots, not Sonny's." And technically that checks out. LAFC security did deliver a pair to him. But the journalist standing there watching noted, and this is a direct quote, "what appears to be a South Korean flag on the boots when he ties them." So, we're going to need a minute. Tonight, Tuesday, July 28th, 7:30 Eastern, Truist Field in Charlotte, the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge goes live on MLS Season Pass via Apple TV. 11 MLS players, 5 separate events. 5 separate champions. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Thomas Müller and Son Heung-min, 2 European legends who spent the last decade trying to beat each other, are now teammates, sharing footwear by accusation at minimum, and competing in something that 12 months ago neither of them could have imagined being part of. Welcome to America, gentlemen. We'll get you some boots. Here's what doesn't get enough credit. The All-Star Skills Challenge, the shooting contest, the Crossbar Challenge, the Goalkeeper Wars, this is a purely American invention. Major League Baseball did it first in 1933, and it spread to every major American sport from there. European football never really developed an equivalent. The ones that exist over there are charity exhibitions or retirement send-offs, not a regular competitive format with individual event champions. So when Müller says, "I know it from back in the days, when I looked at it from Europe, but it was not really a big thing for me," he's not being dismissive, he's being honest. From Munich, from 25 years in the Bundesliga, this looked like an entertainment product, a sideshow, something Americans do because Americans love a spectacle. And then he moved here, and now he's in it. And his boots are in question. Here's what tonight actually looks like. The shooting challenge kicks things off, 60 seconds, multiple targets, highest score wins. Then Goalie Wars, which is exactly what it sounds like and better than you think. Then the Crossbar Challenge, head-to-head, top of the 18-yard box, hit the bar. That's the 18-yard rectangle in front of the goal, for the casually curious. Then the Passing Challenge, targets across the pitch, fastest time wins. And then the whole thing closes with a relay, MLS versus Liga MX, both leagues racing through a multi-skill course, because we do love a finale in this country. Son Heung-min is in that field, so is Müller, so is FC Cincinnati's Evander, who set the all-time record in the shooting challenge last year with 72 points, and has been told, in what is the most delightfully American competitive rule we have encountered in some time, that he will only participate in this year's shooting challenge if someone breaks his record first. He's so good at it, they gave him a bye. Sit with that. But let's go back to the 2 men at the center of this, because their actual history is something. Son Heung-min, South Korea national team captain, spent a decade at Tottenham Hotspur in London before LAFC paid a reported $26.5 million to bring him to Los Angeles last year, a transfer record for this league. He is 34 years old. He already has 9 assists and 13 appearances in 2026, which puts him among the best in MLS, and he scored 173 goals for Spurs over 10 seasons. He also, at 16, moved to Hamburg, Germany, spoke no German, and reportedly learned the language by watching SpongeBob SquarePants. He is fluent. He speaks Korean, German, and English. The man contains multitudes. Müller, meanwhile, arrived in Vancouver for free. No transfer fee to Bayern Munich because his contract had expired. But here's where the only in America part arrives. He wasn't entirely free. Vancouver paid FC Cincinnati up to $400,000 in allocation money, the league's internal transfer currency, because Cincinnati had quietly logged Müller's name in something called the MLS Discovery Priority System. It's a rule where a club can file a claim on a player before he's available, which means if he ever comes to MLS, you get compensated. Cincinnati never signed Müller. They just had the paperwork. And they got paid anyway. Son cost $26.5 million. Müller cost a filing fee and a mealroom mix-up. The contrast in arrival stories alone would make a good short film. And it's worth saying out loud why any of this is happening right now. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is coming to North America. Games in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Charlotte itself is a host city. The tournament arrives next summer, and the entire continent is paying attention to this league in a way it never quite has before. That's not a coincidence. That's why European legends are showing up. That's the context for all of it. Now here's the reframe, the detail that changes how this whole night looks. In 2014, Müller was here, not as an MLS player, as the opposition. Bayern Munich came over for that year's All-Star game, and Müller played against MLS, representing a European club that was, at the time, one of the 3 or 4 best teams on earth. He was the visiting star, the guy MLS was supposed to test itself against. And his Bayern teammate Bastian Schweinsteiger later said that trip, that All-Star game, that American week, planted the seed for his own move to the Chicago Fire. Müller spent 2014 inadvertently recruiting himself. 12 years later, he is on the MLS roster. The Raumdeuter, as Germans call him, the space interpreter, the player who makes sense of gaps that should not exist, chatting in German with a South Korean who learned the language from a cartoon sponge. In Charlotte. And Müller is not faking the enthusiasm. To be honest, I was always playing kind of against Sonny in Germany, and some games also in the Champions League against the Spurs, he told reporters on Monday. He was always a player who was always good enough also to join, maybe Bayern. I could play with him at Bayern. It never worked out. So I enjoy to speak a little bit in German with him to exchange the experiences. So maybe with him it's the most fun. 30-plus years of professional football, 2 continents, 1 language, and the MLS Skills Challenge, bringing together 2 people who almost shared a dressing room but never did. Genuinely. Sit with that. One more thing. Son Heung-min is the 2nd South Korean player ever named an MLS All-Star. The first was his current South Korea national team head coach, Hong Myung-bo, who played for the LA Galaxy and made the team in 2003. Son later broke Hong's all-time South Korea caps record, and now they share the only 2 Korean slots in MLS All-Star history, the coach and the player who took his record. That's a small fact, and it's completely impractical, and it's the kind of detail that only turns up in real life. Tonight is skills. Tomorrow night is the actual All-Star game, Wednesday, Bank of America Stadium, right next door. MLS versus Liga MX, 8 Eastern on MLS Season Pass via Apple TV. MLS leads that all-time series 3-1. Müller says he wants to win it. He also says he doesn't want to hurt himself. He also may or may not have forgotten his boots in a mealroom and trained in a pair bearing Korean flag stitching, borrowed from the guy he most wanted to finally play alongside after 15 years of trying to stop him. The Skills Challenge starts at 7:30 tonight. We'll see whose boots he's wearing.